Insane morning prayer, thank you Lord for this awakening. Start your day right at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, the world outside was dark and silent, but inside the old chapel, the atmosphere shimmered with an electric tension. Shadows danced against the walls as flickering candles cast eerie shapes, creating a setting that felt both sacred and sinister. It was a time when the veil between the living and the supernatural thinned, and hearts raced with every haunting creak of the wooden floor. People whispered rumors about the late-night prayers, claiming they brought miracles or calamities. For young Sarah, the allure was impossible to resist. She felt drawn to the chapel like a moth to a flame, her heart pounding with fear and excitement. The air was thick with an ancient mystery, and the smell of incense clung to her clothes. Had she just felt a chill brush past her shoulder? She shivered, her fingers trembling as she pushed the chapel door open, an invitation into the unknown. Inside, the congregation was small, faces illuminated by candlelight, their eyes wide with expectation. They were waiting for the one who would lead them in prayer, Father Linwood, a man rumored to carry both the gift of prophecy and an unsettling power. As he entered, silence fell like a heavy blanket. His presence was magnetic, yet something felt off. Sarah's gut twisted, reminding her of the stories told in hushed voices about his controversial past. What if this wasn't just prayer? What if there was something darker beneath the surface? The moment he began to speak, the room vibrated with intensity. His deep, reverberating voice echoed off the walls, each word dripping with urgency. Awaken, O spirits of the lost. He called, and the candles flickered dramatically as if responding to his plea. The temperature dropped, and Sarah's breath became visible, forming a ghostly mist that matched her rising anxiety. What had she gotten herself into? The hairs on her neck stood on end as the weight of the moment settled in, each heartbeat echoing with the question, was this truly a prayer or a summoning? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Father Linwood swept his arms wide, a sudden gust of wind blew through the chapel, extinguishing some candles and plunging the room into a near-complete darkness. Gasps erupted from the crowd. There it was, that familiar dread creeping in, the sort that sent shivers down spines. Sarah clutched the pew, her pulse racing. In that darkness, whispers began to rise. Were they chanting? Awaken, awaken echoed through the chamber, a spine-chilling melody that danced around her like a phantom. What were they awakening? The very walls seemed to pulse, alive with energy, leaving Sarah questioning the reality of what she was experiencing. She glanced around, searching for reassurance, but the only thing she saw were eyes wide with uncertainty and fear. They were all caught in the same trap, and she couldn't help but wonder, was it too late to turn back? Outside, the world remained oblivious, but inside, things were about to spiral beyond comprehension. The biting chill enveloped Sarah completely, snaking its way beneath her skin, making her shiver deeper than before. The whispers that had filled the room were no longer just an echo, they transformed into a symphony of restless voices, weaving stories of lost souls and dark secrets. Do you feel it? A voice quivered in the dark, barely above a whisper. It was a woman to Sarah's right, and her eyes reflected sheer terror. Something's coming. Before Sarah could respond, a blinding flash surged through the chapel, illuminating faces twisted in fear, the candlelight struggling against an unseen force. Father Linwood stood at the altar, hands raised toward the oppressive darkness, as if conducting an unseen orchestra. The air crackled with energy, raising goosebumps along Sarah's arm. This wasn't just a prayer, this was a battle. As the light flickered out, laughter erupted from the shadows, unnerving and disjointed. Awaken them. Another voice cried, more demanding, fierce as a thunderclap. Set them free. The congregation succumbed to hysteria. Eyes darting, some began to sway, others wept softly, trapped in a web of fear and hope. A young man in the back screamed, "What have we unleashed?" His plea cut through the chaos, but it only drew louder chants, drowning out his voice. "Listen!" cried Father Linwood, asserting control over the chaos. His tone shifted, sharp as a razor. "They seek passage. Those who linger in twilight, trapped between worlds. They need their offer." Offers. The very word echoed ominously in Sarah's mind. What kind of offering could calm these spirits? In that moment, a flashback of an old book in her grandmother's attic flickered through her thoughts, a tome that spoke of sacrifices made in desperate times, rituals to bind or release. It sent her heart racing. Maybe this was the darkness people whispered about. A wave of collective unease rolled over the crowd as the air thickened with a heavy presence. The room pulsed again, this time a low, throbbing sound resonating from the walls. It felt alive, unwilling to remain dormant as shadows flitted across the edges of her vision, figures morphing out of the black recesses, twisting and curling back into nothingness. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, willing the visions away, but they persisted, each moment clearer, more flesh-like. "Look!" Sarah felt compelled to open her eyes, the chaotic energy tugging at her instincts. There was something in the air, swirling around like smoke. The shadows now formed into distinguishable shapes. Or were they just figments of her imagination breaking through this veil between two worlds? "Father Linwood! Stop it!" Someone shouted, the sound shrill, panic clawing at the edges of the voice. But it was too late. The priest seemed transfixed, his gaze piercing the darkness beyond. Then, a shriek erupted, a sound not of fabric tearing or wood splintering, but of raw anguish that seemed to latch onto Sarah's soul, making her gasp for breath. "Stop the prayers!" she shouted, desperation spilling over. "You're opening a door." But Father Linwood remained immovable, lost in his calling, as the shadows grew thicker and began to swirl dangerously around him. With each passing moment, it felt like the air itself conspired against them. And then, from the depth of the dark, a face emerged, a skeletal visage, eyes hollow and glistening with malice. It turned its gaze to Sarah, locking her trembling body in place. That face, it felt familiar, and something stirred deep within her, buried memories of stories that had always been warnings. "Sarah," the voice dripped like poison. "You've come back just as I predicted." What did it mean? The cold grip of fear cinched tighter around her throat. This night was unraveling into a nightmare she couldn't escape from. Her heart raced as confrontation loomed close, illuminating not just her fears, but the price she might have to pay for awakening the past. But then, it all collapsed into darkness once more, the shadows pulsing violently, leaving Sarah teetering at the edge of revelation and horror. What had she awakened? And what would become of them all? Sarah's breath escaped her in short, hurried gasps. Her heart pounded against her ribcage as sheer panic flooded her senses. The skeletal face locked its gaze on her, eyes wide and hollow, like dark pools mirroring her dread. Was it truly a visage from her childhood nightmares, or was this something more tangible, more insidious? "Don't give in to the darkness." Father Linwood's voice rang out, asserting authority, but the tremor beneath his words betrayed him. With each chant, it seemed as though he pulled the veil tighter, inviting the encroaching shadows to draw forth every hidden fear. The air thickened with an electricity that hummed beneath her skin, invigorating and terrifying all at once. Around her, the murmurs only grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Faces around her morphed, some twisted in horror, others enraptured, weaving into a tapestry of desperation and lunacy. Several onlookers began to cry out, tears streaming down their cheeks, their bodies jerking as if possessed. "Please! Stop this madness!" A man in a tattered coat crashed to his knees, grasping at the floor as though it might swallow him whole. "Sarah, you've unlocked what was hidden." The skeletal figure hissed, its voice like gravel scraping against metal. "You cannot escape now, you are bound to this fate." Her mind raced. What had she done to invoke this malevolence? Memories of her grandmother's warnings flared, stories of her ancestors binding spirits with rituals meant to protect. But those same tales warned of horrible repercussions if the boundaries were crossed. No! She shouted, the word bursting forth like a lifeline. I'm not a part of this. The shadows recoiled, momentarily startled. For a heartbeat, it felt as if her defiance had pushed back the creeping dread, but that fleeting sense of power slipped away as the laughter returned, frenzied and full of malice. It surged from the depths like a wave crashing upon the shore, uncomfortable and insatiable. The whispers morphed into shrieks, terrible and deafening, an uproar for vengeance or maybe just a hunger. Silence! Father Linwood cried, but even he choked on the power, ridiculing his authority. The congregation seemed entirely taken by the chaos, their movements choreographed by the unseen hand of dread, rolling like a tide around Sarah. And then, as if conjured from her very fears, hands reached out from the shadows, claw-like fingers desperately grasping, seeking, wanting. Some people moaned and covered their ears, while others reached as if drawn to the touch of salvation. No! Sarah screamed again, but her words fell on broken, lost minds. Suddenly, she felt a sharp tug at her side, a figure pulling her back. We need to go. It was the woman from earlier, grasping Sarah's wrist with a strength that belied her fragile appearance. But the shadows surged forward, intertwining, creating a barrier around the two of them, forcing them to stand their ground. A flash of light burst forth from the altar, a beacon of hope or a flicker of despair. Sarah and the woman exchanged a look, both understood without saying that escape was the only choice. Father, please! Sarah cried, desperation bubbling in her throat. Help us! But the frantic chanting intensified. The energy in the room then burst forth, a cyclone of shadows and light that promised to engulf them all. The spectral face leaned closer, its breath cold against her skin. You cannot run from the past, Sarah. You have awakened what lies beneath, and now you must face the price. And with that, the air thickened dramatically, the oppressive weight escalating, cutting off her breath. Sarah gripped the woman's hand tightly, grounding herself against the tide that threatened to pull her under. What is the price? She managed to gasp, her eyes wide with terror as the shadows writhed around them. The answer lay just beyond the veil, tantalizingly close, yet obscured by darkness. As the forces clashed violently around them, a chilling question echoed in her mind: would they have to pay with their own souls? In a fleeting moment of clarity, Sarah realized they were not just fighting for themselves. They were battling a darkness that threatened to consume them all, and the cost of victory remained obscured by shadows, and that darkness was far from done with her. The shadows writhed like serpents, undulating and shaping into grotesque forms, threatening to close in around them. The light from the altar pulsed, a chaotic heartbeat illuminating the fear-stricken faces in the congregation. There was no escaping the weight of centuries-old dread pressing down on them. Listen to me! The woman shouted, her grip tightening on Sarah's wrist. We have to break the circle. We can't let it bind us. Sarah's heart raced. The darkness felt alive, breathing around her, curling at the edges of her vision. She could see the figures moving in tandem, their limbs flailing as if strung by an unseen puppet master. Their eyes shone with desperation, reflecting the chaos swirling in the room. But how? Sarah screamed, voice cracking under the strain. What do we do? Panic clawed at her throat like the very hand stretching towards her. The power lies in the truth, the woman said, voice steady despite the frenzy. You have to confront your fear. Own it. Only then can we sever the ties. Own my fear. The idea sent a chill racing through Sarah, pooling in her gut like ice. Memories flooded back, her grandmother's frantic preparations, warnings spoken over flickering candlelight, whisperings of spirits trapped, and curses lingering in the air. But what if it consumes me? Better that than losing yourself to this darkness. The woman pleaded, urgency rising in her voice. The shadows shifted, closing in just slightly, inch by agonizing inch. Sarah's breaths came in shallow gasps as she felt the weight of countless souls overshadowing her. What lay buried beneath those layers of fear? What truth could possibly be worse than this impending doom? The apparition flared its eyes, scoffing at her hesitation. You wish to be free? Then reveal the truth hidden in your heart. Embrace what you've buried. From the corners of her mind, whispers emerged. Memories of regret, sorrows she hadn't let go of. She thought of the rejection, the hurtful words, the resentments she tethered to her past. But she couldn't let this thing lay claim to her. No. She shouted defiantly, shaking off the weight pressing down on her. But the shadows twisted, grabbing at her thoughts, pulling deeper. You hide while I thrive, the skeletal figure taunted, seeking to ensnare her back into despair. In that moment, Sarah made a choice. With resolute determination, she stepped forward, breaking the tight circle of terrified onlookers. I will face you. She yelled, her voice stronger than before. I want to be your victim. A ripple washed through the crowd, some faces brightening with hope while others twisted in fear. The shadows shrank back, momentarily startled. Yes, Sarah. Keep pushing. The woman urged, her own gaze filled with fire. Let it see your spirit. Feeling strength bubble within her, Sarah summoned her memories, allowing the heavy weight of past experiences to wash over her. Pain, sure, fear, absolutely. But also resilience, bravery, and a fierce will to live. I'm not defined by you. She bellowed, fists clenched tight. You are not my darkness. The shadows recoiled, beginning to thrash as light flickered violently overhead. Father Linwood's chanting faltered, disrupted by the growing power manifesting from Sarah's confrontation. She felt the air crackle around her, vibrant and charged, forcing the darkness to back away, inch by inch. Then the apparition laughed, mocking, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. You have no idea what lies beyond this moment, do you? The shadows surged, raging like a storm as Sarah braced herself, unsure of what would happen next. What lies beyond? She demanded, eyes narrowed against the chaos encircling her. And then it happened, something shifted in the air, a crack so primal, it silenced the voices around her. What had she uncovered? What would the price truly be? Just when she thought she had found her footing, darkness roared back to life, threatening to engulf them all anew. But one question lingered ominously as the storm raged, twisting and turning, a question that made even the bravest among them quiver with dread. Would they survive the reckoning of dark truths? The shadows lurched forward, crashing together like waves of an unforgiving sea, hungry to pull them under. Sarah could feel their presence pushing against her will, tugging her toward the gaping maw of despair that yawned at her feet. Desperation surged through her veins, a primal instinct fighting back against the consuming void. Don't break. She shouted, her voice slicing through the clamor. We're stronger together. The woman beside her, still holding on like a lifeline, nodded fervently. Hold hands. Share your strength. Her words ignited a ripple of hope, and as more voices joined the fray, the circle tightened, fingers linked, hearts pounding in unison. A soft glow spread from their connected hands, illuminating the encroaching malevolence. The light, bright as dawn, pulsed through the darkness like a heartbeat, each beat steadying their resolve. With every echo of defiance, they pushed back against the shadows, pulsing strength flowing through them, stitching the fragile fabric of courage between their souls. A guttural roar erupted from the apparition, its skeletal visage twisting in rage. You think your power can fight me? You are mere mortals. You cannot defeat what you seek to hide. Maybe not alone, Sarah breathed, heart racing. But together? We can shatter this. Suddenly, the memories that held her captive began to surge. The voices of the lost and the damned intertwining with her own. She could hear echoes of her grandmother's voice, soft but urgent. The truth is liberation. Fear is only a shadow, Sarah. Stand against it. She's right. The realization struck her like lightning. The shadows, though terrifying, were remnants of their past fears, transformed into monsters only through their silence. They were fueled by secrets left unspoken. Focusing on that thought, Sarah felt a swell of energy building within her. It wasn't just hers, it belonged to everyone here, strengthened through shared vulnerability. We're worth fighting for. She screamed, unleashing the surge like a floodgate opening. I will not let fear dictate my life anymore. The shadows recoiled, hissing and swirling like smoke caught in a gust. From behind her, the crowd roared in agreement, their voices merging into a chorus of conviction. The woman's grip tightened around Sarah's wrist, and together, they raised their hands towards the vault above them, the light cascading down like a waterfall, cleansing the darkness with its relentless purity. The specter twisted, shrieking a vile sound that reverberated through every bone in Sarah's body. You dare claim your lives? It howled, thrashing caustically, the howling resonating through the room. You belong to me. No. Someone behind Sarah yelled, courage emerging like sun breaking through clouds. We are not yours. The power forged a barrier around them, a shield pulsing with radiant energy. Shadows beat against it, desperate and furious. They were hidden truths, angry at being exposed. Sarah felt a rush of anger of her own at how long she had let them define her, but there was a limit to their drifting. The light surged until it cracked against its festering darkness, sending shockwaves rippling through the room. And just like that, the chaos reached a fever-pitched tension so thick it might have shattered the walls themselves, the air static, crackling. Something incredible built, something inevitable. All of them stood strong, shoulders squared to the evil threatening to overpower them. Push forward. The woman shouted, her voice rising like a beacon. Let your light guide you. As they pressed together, something within Sarah clicked. She understood what this was, a reckoning where truth would weigh heavier than the monster they faced, and she would be the one to bear it. The pulse of their combined strength surged through her, igniting the flames of defiance, and just when Sarah felt she was ready to break through, a violent lurch in the shadow-gathered air sent her staggering. For every step they took toward the truth, the darkness retaliated tenfold, now more exhilarating than daunting. What is the price for our freedom? A voice quivered from the back, uncertain, but before Sarah could respond, the shadows erupted like fire ants disturbed from their nest, claws ripping into the threads of light they debuilt. No. She gasped. Looming figures surged toward the group, hungry and wild. She could feel the icy grip of despair at her throat once again. There was no turning back, just the abominable truth waiting in the heart of the storm. What sacrifices would they have to make to finally break free? The storm roared, the question echoing ominously in the air. What darkness awaited beyond their struggle? The air thickened, suffocating as the shadows swarmed, their jagged edges clawing at the light. The glow flickered, threatening to snuff out beneath the weight of despair. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs, each beat loud like the war drum of her resolve. She could sense the flicker of fear in the others, but they needed to hold steady. Stay together. Stay united. Sarah yelled, feeling her voice strained but unwavering. She could see doubt creasing the faces surrounding her, but hope lingered in the depths of their eyes. The woman beside her, still clenching her hand, breathed heavily. What do we do now? Her voice trembled, fear creeping in like fog. Remember why we're here. Sarah shouted back, channeling their collective strength. We face this darkness because we deserve to be free. We need to confront our fears. A powerful thrum followed her words, resonating through the circle. One by one, the others began to chant along with her, voices merging into a unified force. We are more than our fears. With each repetition, the shadows recoiled as though struck by light. For a moment, Sarah glimpsed an opening where the dark mass was thinning, but the surge of hope ignited something else in the depths of the storm. A shriek cut through their chant, reverberating through the air like breaking glass. Fools! The apparition's voice boomed, now a twisted orchestra of agony and fury. You think you can escape your past? It clings to you like a second skin. The shadows surged, a tidal wave of grief and regret, a darkness not just surrounding them, but reaching deep inside each soul present. Faces contorted as the past clawed its way into their consciousness. Flickers of betrayal, mistakes, unfulfilled dreams. The shadows took form, encasing them in a cage of memory. Sarah gasped. She could see herself in the shadows, the moments she had buried and transformed into guilt. The repercussions of choices mingled with betrayal, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Now! She yelled, feeling the vibrations of anguish clawing at her throat. We can't hide from them. We must face our truths. She willed the energy of the group to focus and let the warmth of their bond cut through the chilling tendrils of their past. They had to remember the love, the laughter despite the pain. With a sudden rush, Sarah pulled everyone forward, urging them to stand their ground. Collectively, we hold the key to our freedom. We are not defined solely by our mistakes. As if ignited by her call to action, the glow returned, dancing among them like candles in the wind. They shared their pain, their stories flooding like a cascading river, and with that flood came clarity. Faces brightened as they spoke their fears aloud, uplifting each other like a chorus of whispered truths. We are more than our traumas. They shouted in unison, voices rising above the howl of the shadows. We are strong. We are worthy. But just as hope began to pierce through the clouds, the specter lunged, its skeletal claws reaching for Sarah. She felt a cold pinch at her heart, a sudden pull of her very essence trying to break free, dragging her into the very dark they were fighting against. In that split second, silence enveloped the crowd as if the universe itself held its breath. Sarah's eyes widened as she held the darkness within her gaze. These weren't just the shadows of the past, they were manifestations of everything she had concealed: the grief, the shame, the fear. Gritting her teeth, she felt the energy within crackle stronger. This is no longer just a fight against you. She shouted, her voice ringing strong. We confront our demons together. The shadows writhed, pulling more fiercely as if sensing the ebb of their control. Sarah braced herself, ready for the fight. A split second left to make a choice, but something was lurking in the darkness, waiting for the moment to strike. What price would she have to pay to peel back the layers and free her soul? The looming presence stretched even darker, broadcasting an unsettling whisper, welcome to the reckoning. What revelation awaited in the dark depths of their fear? A wave of darkness slammed into Sarah, a tempest of despair wrapping around her like a suffocating cocoon. Her mind raced, panic clashing with the determination swelling within her. She couldn't let the shadows claim her, not now, not while they were so close to breaking free. Focus! She screamed, the sound tearing from her throat. Do not let it win. The others around her trembled, but their resolve flickered like the candlelight fighting against a storm. She could sense them rallying, channeling their collective strength, each individual a vital thread in a tapestry fighting to hold together. One by one, each voice found its footing. I faced the choice to give up. But I'm still here. Someone called out, their voice slashing through the air, each word a lifeline. Sarah felt the power of their unity flowing like electricity through her veins. They were standing together, standing for truth and for their stories. The past might be full of pain, but it had also shaped them into warriors, unyielding and proud. But just as she began to feel hope claw its way back, the shadows reformed into grotesque figures representing their worst fears. Ghostly images of lost loved ones, failures, and dreams dashed against the rocks of reality rose before her. The sorrowful wails twisted into a collective howl, echoing through the chilling emptiness. Look at what you are. The apparition howled, its voice morphing into a sickly sweet lullaby. They will see you for who you really are: broken, lost, forsaken. Sarah clenched her jaw, refusing to bend under the pressure. She couldn't deny that she felt every word, that sometimes the ache of past wrongs sank deep within her soul. But somehow, against the onslaught of despair, there was a fire igniting within her chest, a blaze of resilience. Don't listen! She yelled, tearing her gaze from the illusion of shame that flickered like a dying bulb. We are not broken. Our past is a part of us, not a prison. Their voices surged, filling the air with defiance. We are more than our failures. We are hope. We choose to rise. With every shout, an ember of light sparked, pushing back against the shadows lurking in every corner. The shadows shrieked, recoiling but regrouping, lurking to pounce on the weak. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I'm still here, after everything, and I choose to fight. The shift was palpable, an electric rush igniting an inner flame. As she glanced around, Sarah saw the faces of her companions transforming. They were not just figures in the space around her, they were brave souls, and their eyes glimmered with the stippled reflections of courage. Together, they were building a wall against despair. Okay, then. Let us face what we fear. Sarah roared. She could feel that heat in her chest expand, and she reached out her hands, beckoning to the darkness with fierce determination. We're taking control. The air shifted, crackling with energy as the horrific silhouettes loomed, but they trembled like paper figures. The group huddled closer, arm in arm, channeling their shared pain into sacred strength. Let your hearts be set free. Sarah shouted, heart pounding fiercely. We're here to break the cycle. We grow from our pain. And with this final rallying cry, the chorus enveloped the air, louder than the shadow's shriek, rising like a tidal wave crushing the darkness. The roar surged, matching their heartbeats, washing dread away, revealing light beyond the storm. Suddenly, a sharp thud resonated as a fissure opened in the dark veil before them. What lay beyond felt like a pulse, a brightly illuminated path, beckoning them to step forward. Do you see that? Someone whispered, eyes wide with awe. But just as they dared to take a step, a flash of movement drew Sarah's attention, and that familiar whisper returned. You think this is the end? It hissed. Hold on tight, for what comes next will shake you to your core. What awaited them beyond this moment of light, yet lurking in the shadows? The light beckoned like a siren's call, promising hope but cloaked in uncertainty. Sarah felt her heart race, a mix of fear and anticipation swirling inside her. She wanted to step forward, to chase away the darkness once and for all, but a shiver swept through her as the whisper slithered back into her mind. Now you're in for it. Her resolve faltered. The voices around her once so strong faltered too. Sarah could feel their collective energy wane, uncertainty pooling in their eyes. The shadows regrouped, a savage hunger igniting in their soulless depths. Stay strong. Someone cried, but it was almost drowned by the growing cacophony of despair. Voices layered over one another, rising and falling like creeping tides. What if this is a trap? Another whispered, fear clawing at their expression. No, Sarah shot back, forcing herself to step forward, trying to rally the others. We can't turn back now. We have to believe in what we fought for. But the shadows whispered back, evolving into a chilling symphony that echoed through her very bones. Each grotesque figure twisted in the light, morphing into familiar faces of those she longed for, faces that reminded her of every pain she had ever hidden. Wasn't there a chance this was just another trick, another failure adorned in silver linings? Look around you. They cried, their voices layered with mock sympathy. Can you really trust them? Can you trust yourself? Shut up. Sarah shouted, clenching her fists as she fought against the rising tide of doubt. The air crackled with tension, pulsating around them. For every step closer they took toward the light, the darkness pressed back harder, clawing for their weaknesses. She could practically hear it sifting through her mind, searching for cracks to exploit. But then she felt it, a spark tiny, almost imperceptible. A few voices pushed through the turmoil, reignited by Sarah's fierce flame. We won't let it take us. They shouted. We are stronger together. As those words washed over her, Sarah felt a surge of energy return. It chased away the nagging doubts, feeding the light spiraling within her chest. With a deep breath, she grabbed the hands of her comrades, feeling their pulse beneath her palms alive, beating, determined. Together. She yelled, pulling them forward with renewed vigor. Each heartbeat became a battle cry as they advanced toward the fissure of light, the silhouettes wailing in protest. Remember why you're here. Someone urged. Remember the light. Sarah could see it now, a shimmering path just beyond the darkness. Her mind flashed with images of laughter, warmth, and love, the very essence of hope. But the shadows thrashed violently, the cacophony grew louder, a choir of despair that threatened to drown them. You're not enough. You'll always fall short. Just give up. A cold sweat trickled down Sarah's spine. Doubt wheeled like a hawk, waiting for an opening. No. She shouted, her voice breaking through the clamoring voices around her. We will not submit. She felt the weight of their eyes, the raw spirit of the ones behind her pushing through. With one giant leap, Sarah charged ahead, breaking through the soul-crushing barrier of darkness. In that instant, all she felt was the embrace of light, shattering the shadows like shattered glass, but before relief could settle in, the darkness flared in a last, furious surge. You think you're free? The whisper moaned, its voice a searing chill. You are merely pawns, in a much larger game. Just then, everything went silent. The light flickered, giving way to a swirling mist of gray. What game? Sarah breathed, but answers hung in the air like fallen leaves, barely rustling before drawing back into a suffocating stillness. A new sense of darkness enveloped them, more profound than before, and a familiar sense of dread washed over her. What had she unleashed? And as that question echoed in her mind, Sarah knew without a doubt something far worse loomed just ahead. What was this new darkness that awaited them? Was it lurking in the shadows, or had it already infiltrated their hearts? The silence was a living thing, wrapping around them like an unwelcome blanket. Each breath Sarah took felt heavy, laden with the weight of uncertainty creeping back in. Her heart thudded against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. Did we just step into a nightmare? A voice shivered from the group, breaking the stillness. As the shadows danced at the edges of the flickering light, Sarah turned to face her comrades, their expressions mirroring her internal chaos. Whispers slithered back like tendrils of smoke, threatening to engulf them anew. The gray mist thickened, suffocating hopes like a heavy fog. We pressed on, someone reminded, their voice shaky yet resolute. We can't stop now. We're still alive. Alive? Sarah echoed, unsure whether to scoff or cheer. But before she could respond, the mist began to shift, swirling into a formation that pulled at her memories, remnants of the past converging like a gathering storm. Her mind flashed back to faces she tried to erase, lost friends, washed away dreams, every heartache now resurrected in terrifying clarity. No. Get out of my head. Sarah screamed, clutching her temples. The shadows latched onto her insecurities, amplifying every fear, every failure until they tangled into an unbearable weight. She staggered backward, feeling the ground shift beneath her like quicksand. Around her, cries of anguish erupted from her friends as they too succumbed to the relentless onslaught of the dark. The cacophony roared louder, drowning out their thoughts like a tempest. Here were each of their pasts, unfurling before their bewildered eyes, glaring mistakes, moments of shame, and every lost opportunity. We need to fight back. Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the chaos. Think of why we're here. But the darkness twisted her plea, transforming her rallying cry into mocking laughter that echoed off invisible walls. It was all-consuming, feeding off despair, and she could feel it pulling at her friends' resolve, their faces clouded with torment. Suddenly, a figure burst through the fog, its form hazy and indistinct. Sarah! It called, voice shimmering, trembling. Hope flickered within her, a beacon against the crushing tide. Who? What do you want? Sarah gasped, staring into the figure's familiar outline. It's me. Remember? The voice urged, a gentle reminder that sent a jolt through her heart. You're not alone. The shadows recoiled, the dark essence trying to snuff out the light of recognition spreading through Sarah. With every beat of her heart, she willed herself to remember, to drown out the taunts that threatened to break her resolve. Focus! Another comrade yelled, clenching their fists. Focus on love, on the people who fought alongside you. Sarah inhaled deeply as warmth flooded her senses. The memories that once terrified her transformed into fuel, the laughter shared over cups of coffee, the embraces that stitched their fractured souls together. With newfound determination, she locked eyes with her friends. "We can do this," she cried, the light reigniting in their gazes, shining brighter than the encroaching shadows. "We are stronger than our pasts." As Sarah propelled herself towards the flickering light, she pulled her friends along, feeling their warmth coalesce into a powerful wave. Then, in that moment, the darkness surged violently, clawing like wild animals desperate to drag them back. "You'll never escape," it roared, a violent hiss reverberating in their ears. Together, they screamed as one, unyielding against the storm. The mist rippled and stirred, but their unity seared through it like a scorching knife. Just then, a piercing flash ignited from the center of the chaos. Sarah's eyes widened as the distortion unfolded. A door loomed ahead, pulsing with radiant light. But as she reached for it, the figure from the shadows appeared once more, more defined yet still cloaked in mystery. "Wait. You must choose wisely." Before she could process the warning, the mist surged, threatening to engulf them once again. A new question burned in Sarah's mind: what lay beyond that door? Was escape truly possible, or would it shatter everything they had fought for? The room seemed to hold its breath as the questions swirled around Sarah like the black mist that threatened to swallow them all. In that moment of swirling chaos and uncertainty, she felt a sudden clarity form deep within her. The door beckoned, shimmering with the promise of freedom, yet darkness still clamored for their attention. Sarah could see her comrades' faces strained, eyes glistening with determination masking fear. They had fought too hard, faced too many shadows, to falter now. "This is it," she whispered, rallying her frail courage. "We have to believe in ourselves, in each other." The shadows roared in response, echoing her self-doubt like a cruel chant, but she pushed on. "Remember who you are." The fierce conviction spilled from her lips, resonating with warmth. "Every one of you is more than this darkness. You are strength, you are light." With each fiery word, the room seemed to shift. A flicker of the light from the door danced like a star, trembling but unyielding. A woman behind her stepped forward, her voice cracking but fierce. "You're right. We've felt the pain together. We're bonded through our struggles." Others stepped forward, a wave of solidarity spreading with each shared acknowledgement of their fears, hopes, and triumphs. As their voices united in a furious battle cry, they surged towards the light, hand in hand. The darkness writhed violently, clawing at their ankles, but their combined determination held fast. Sarah felt the pulsating strength of her friends feeding her resolve, bolstering her heart. "We are not defined by our failures," she shouted, the energy radiating like a beacon amongst despair. "We choose life, we choose hope, and we choose to fight." The moment hung suspended, electric, before erupting into a frenzy of colors, light colliding with shadows, the room shaking as if the very foundations of reality were trembling. The door stood tall, vibrant against the tempest, a symbol of everything they had fought for. In one united push, they reached for the door, fingers extended, hearts racing. The light enveloped them, blindingly bright, pulling them through with an immense force, consuming them whole and sending them spiraling beyond the brink of despair, and just like that, they emerged into a vast, serene meadow shimmering under a warm sun. The air was fragrant with wildflowers, and the earthy scent of the soil felt liberating against their fingertips. It felt surreal, a stark contrast to the heaviness that had suffocated them moments before. Their breaths quickened in disbelief. They were free, but as they gained their bearings, Sarah's heart tightened in her chest. "Where are we?" she wondered aloud, scanning the horizon. The landscape felt beautifully untouched, yet the shadows still clung to her memory, a reminder of their struggle, a testament to the dark truths they had faced together. The woman who had clutched her wrist in the chapel stepped closer, her eyes shining with untainted hope. "We're free from the darkness that bound us. But it's a new beginning, isn't it?" There was no desperation or fear in her voice, only the intensity of shared triumph. "Yeah," Sarah murmured, warmth pooling in her chest. Hope surged within them like a gentle tide, reminding them that they would continue forward together. One by one, the group exchanged glances filled with renewed purpose. They had survived the reckoning, and with that victory came freedom, the power to shape their reality, to support one another, and to embrace the truths that could, at last, render their pasts powerless. "We can do anything now," Sarah said, her voice steady and resolute. "Let us live without fear, let us create the life we deserve. Together." And just as they took the first step into this new world of possibilities, Sarah felt a whisper breeze through the meadow. It was a gentle reminder of all they had overcome, a soft echo of light that illuminated the path ahead. They faced forward, hearts beating in synchrony, ready to embrace the dawn of a new life, free from the burdens that once shadowed their souls. With the shadows receding behind them, they stepped into the future, not just as survivors of a dark battle but as warriors forged in light, alive and purposeful. Now, dear friends, as we close the curtain on this incredible journey, I need you to do something powerful. This is the moment to show your support and subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Take a second to smash that like button now, feed the algorithm and help our community grow. And please, flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the ending. Your voice is crucial, and I want to hear from you. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. After all, only true fans understand the importance of supporting our narrative journey together.